All right, let's look at Genesis 21-ish. We should be right around there. 20 and 21, really, is where we're going to keep going. Well, we left off with a little bit of 20. So we see the situation that arises in 20, just to kind of refresh from last time with Abraham and Abimelech, and kind of like what happened with Abraham, or Abram at the time, Pharaoh, where he lies, right, and says, this is my sister, right, to try to protect himself and Sarah. And that happens again in 20. We talked about that last time. We mentioned that this really shows us that God protects the covenant that he has with man, even though maybe man might do something that's wrong, right? So, and we're going to see this a lot. We're going to see, and we have already, we see that the men and women in Scripture in these early times, God holds his side of the covenant. God follows through with his side of the covenant. But then what will happen often, as we'll see later on with Rebekah, and we'll see that with Jacob and Esau. We've seen it with Abraham already. We saw it with Noah. God keeps his plan going forward. God has his intentions, whether or not man does the right thing or not. Right? And so what's tricky about these chapters is sometimes we read them, and I don't know, maybe when I was younger I did this, maybe, and people outside of maybe this building or other people in the world will read these things, and that's crooked. God must be crooked and debased somehow, right? And no, who's doing the actions, right? Who's acting the way they're acting are the people that are doing the wrong things, not God. But God makes it work out for the benefit of his covenant, of course, in chapter 20. So 21, what do we see starting in 21? Finally, after so much waiting, right, and the promise, Abraham and Sarah get what has been promised to them, which is whom, I should say that? Isaac, which is Isaac. So 21, maybe you've been rooting for him, finally, Isaac is born, right? So Isaac is born in 21, and they received that promise, and they name his in 25. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him, and Sarah said, "God has made laughter for me. Everyone who hears me will laugh with me." And she said, "Who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? Yet had born a son in his old age." So again, they recount, wow, this is so incredible. Who would have thought we would have a child? And they have Isaac, right? But we see a situation arise. So what happens with Sarah and Hagar? And Abraham's involved again in 21.
That Ishmael was laughing.
Sure. Yeah, he was kind of playing or doing whatever. And
Sarah did not approve.
Sarah I got my own son now. I don't need this Ishmael anymore, right? Yeah. Yep. And so Ishmael and Hagar really, to make not really a shorter story, even shorter, she gives him the boot, right? What does Abraham say about it?
He's distressed. He's upset.
Yeah. So the matter distressed Abraham greatly because of his son. But God said to Abraham, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it, right? So Abraham is just, he's, you might wonder, well, what did Abraham think about that? And it does say. But she said to Abraham, drive out this maid. And so she puts it on Abraham, and it distressed him. So really, we can maybe, this isn't in your questions, we can make the assumption maybe that God talked with Abraham, petitioned God or talked to God about it, right? And God tells Abraham, do not be distressed because of the lad you're made, for whatever Sarah tells you, listen to her. Through Isaac, your descendants will be named. So God says to Abraham, really not to worry about it. The son of the maid, he says, I'll take care of him, right? I'll take care of it, and he does, right? So we see this this interaction again. I asked the question, what is this interaction with Hagar, God and Hagar again? What does that teach us about God, and what really happens at the middle of 21 there? This time they're given the boot, and they are. She sets Ishmael down to die, right? So I mean, they are destitute at this point, right? And then what happens in 17, 18, and following?
She cries out to God.
Yeah.
For relief or help.
Yeah. And does he take care of him?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah. Why does he take care of him? Because he said he would. Yeah. So is God going to reverse or go back on his promise? No. He said he was going to take care of him, so he takes care of him.
It's interesting though. I mean, these people are getting at their wits' end before so much like God intervenes, which I think maybe draws people to reach out to God or to get closer to God. But the child is dying at this point.
Yeah. No, it's these chapters, I'm enjoying the study so much because so many of these stories I've read in different ways in the past, and I'm seeing more of the human nature in the story. I shouldn't say stories, the occurrences. I'm seeing really more of the human nature in the occurrences, and how sometimes how we could be towards each other, right, as humans, or even towards God. And we'll see that again with Jacob and Esau coming up, and what people do, and then how God has to step in and fix the situation because we messed it up a lot. Go ahead.
I just have a hard time appreciating Sarah. First she laughs, and then
yes, it's tough. Yeah,
and then,
it's tough.
She's just not a nice person.
Say what you will. We don't know. There's a lot we don't know about Sarah too, right? But I agree with you. I don't disagree. I just sometimes again I think about these characters, and I don't know if you do this too. Maybe you could. But like think of some of those characters and be critical of them, and then what should we really try to do? Try to flip it back. I think, right? Try to flip it back and go, okay, how have I acted like Sarah, for example? I'm not putting you on the spot,
but all in the scheme of things, God designed it. So.
Yeah, no, the scheme of he makes it work out for his. He makes it work out for his will. But that doesn't mean that everything that she's doing is caused by God, right? She has choices she's making all on her own, right? So anyways, God takes care of Hagar again. This time, he really in a miraculous way, if you will. 19, God opened her eyes and she saw a wall of water and she filled up her skin, right? So it seems to me almost really, I don't know, unless I'm reading that wrong, really just a miraculous, you need water, here's water, and he makes it happen. Was it Mike? Was somebody over here with their hand up? Or go ahead, Babs.
I was going to say 17. God heard the lad crying.
Yeah.
The angel of
Yeah. No, he hears it, I agree, yeah. And hears that crying and has compassion. As he said he would, right?
What did he say? He said, what is the matter with you?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Hagar was feeling sorry for herself.
Well, he says,
oh, my son is dying, blah, 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 and she's not believing. Lord says, I'll take care of it.
I told you I'd take care of it.
Hagar, what are you doing?
Yeah. Don't you remember? Yeah. Right? Yeah. Good observation. Any other comments on that part of the story? Okay. And then we see this covenant, another covenant, and we won't spend much time on this, but we'll see Abimelech or Abimelechs in the future, whether it's the same one. I didn't dig into that too much. I don't know if you did, but we'll see Abimelech come up here later with Isaac. And is this the same Abimelech, or is this, back in those times, people got the same name as their father, right? And it kept going. So, but anyways, we see this covenant here with Abimelech. But what do you notice? I didn't ask any questions about that, but I don't want to breeze through it. But just real quick, and we'll notice this later on after Jacob and Esau. I was studying it this morning. What do you notice about that interaction there? What is recognized by this Abimelech, and maybe it's the later Abimelech too, or it's the same one, but what does he recognize? Right in the beginning of that section in 22 there.
Well, he recognized who was in charge, and that's God,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
he even took Sarah for his wife, but it doesn't go any further than that right here. But Abimelech began to understand where Abraham was coming from.
Yeah, he if you think about it, why does he make the covenant with Abraham? God's with you, so I'll make a covenant with you because I know that God's with you, right? So Abimelech recognizes that God is with you, and he says, swear. He even says, Abraham, swear to me here by God that you will not deal falsely with me, or my offspring, or my posterity. But according to the kindness I've shown you, you'll show me in the land that I've sojourned. And Abraham said, I swear it. Abimelech even recognizes that God is with Abraham. And how does he recognize that? Who knows, right? But
Well, it didn't say something about while Abimelech thought that Abraham was lying or saying, how come you said that she's your sister?
Oh, and
She
that
really
story.
is his sister.
yeah,
And so do I have it mixed up? All the wombs were closed. Abimelech.
he recognizes it that way, right?
Okay, so
That's
God's
true.
in charge all the time.
Yeah. I just meant in other ways, how does he know? I'm guessing that Abimelech has seen the prosperity of Abraham and how God's with him too, right?
Implied in verse 22.
Yeah.
God is with you in all that you do.
Yeah.
Right. So that's
Yep.
the line.
Yeah. So good.
And I'd back up to, I don't necessarily think, I don't know if we could say it was a miracle with the well.
Sure.
He opened her eyes. A lot of times we narrow our vision because we become myopic and we get into our own thoughts and
Glass half empty kind of thing.
and our own problems, and the answer is right in
Right.
front of us.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? And that could very well have been.
Could have been,
the case there.
yes.
It was right in front of her, right? But
Yeah.
she didn't see it because
She was in despair and said, I'm just going to die and lay down and die. And good observation. I hadn't thought of it that way. I don't disagree. All right. Any other thoughts before we get into the bigger, we're going to get into a pretty big story here of Abraham and Isaac. So
I'm just noticing though, like a lot of these instances that are happening here are leading to enemies of Israel.
yeah.
Because the Ishmaelites, I know my Bible says they also became enemies of Israel.
Lots of people.
Ammonites and
Yeah, Moabites, Ammonites, yep. We'll keep seeing that as we go too. All right, let's get into, I know what's going to be the slowdown here, the meat and potatoes. Chapter 22, the offering of Isaac. So God tests Abraham, and he says to him, hey, where are you? Abraham? Here I am. Take your son, the only son, the son you love. Look at all the language there. I gave you this son, your only son, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains, which I tell you. Wow, that's just a boom right there, right? Very short description, very short conversation. We don't see a ton of. Do we see a lot of back and forth, petitioning like we saw from Abraham and God before? Nope, we don't see the, if you say, if there's 50 righteous, if there's 45, like we talked about last week, we don't see that. We just see a very short conversation there. And God tells him to go and take Isaac and offer him up. So the question, we'll get in the story here, just start thinking about this. I asked, what is God testing in Abraham? Not why is he testing him necessarily, what is he testing him? And what's significant about his response. So let's get into the story here. Make sure we all know all the details of it, and then we can really discuss what's going on. So he rises up early in the morning in 3, saddles up his donkey. He takes 2 of his young men with him. He takes Isaac, his son. He splits the wood for the offering, right? And they go to the place that they told him on the 3rd day. So there's some travel involved here, right? Abraham raises his eyes and sees the place from a distance and tells his young men, stay here with the donkey, and the lad and I will go there. Abraham takes the wood of the burnt offering and lays it on Isaac and says, here, you carry this. He takes the knife the fire and the knife, so whatever they had for that, and they walk on together. And then in 7, what does Isaac start noticing? 7 through 9.
There isn't an offering.
Okay, so was Isaac in tune to this plan from like the beginning of 22 there? Not necessarily, no. So Isaac is not in tune to this plan. Abraham has withheld this from him at this point, and probably rightly so, right? But,
If we put ourselves in his shoes.
Yeah.
If you're pretending that you're Isaac now,
Yeah.
where's the lamb?
Yeah,
That's
I
more
know.
that's more than a question. How would you feel if you were Isaac?
I'm pretty
How would
scared.
I feel if I were Isaac? On the pier of
Yeah.
wood, with your own father ready to stab
I'd
you.
be pretty
Something's
scared.
oh.
So he says to him, my father, here I am. We have the fire, we have the wood, we have all this stuff. Where is the animal for the burnt offering? So has he seen burnt offerings before? Of course, yeah. Has he recognized that before? He's been a part of that before. So really, I kind of picture this as like a weekend with dad kind of thing. Hey, we're going to go do a burnt offering. We did this last week, remember? Let's go do it again. So it's kind of maybe nothing new to Isaac, right? And they come to the place which God told him. Rewind. The response of Abraham is really important in verse 8. What does he say? Somebody want to read that?
God will provide for himself.
Yeah. So God will provide for himself the burnt offering, my son. And the two of them walked on together. Now, do you see? How do you read that? Is that a half truth, an untruth? Is he trying to ease it over with Isaac?
God
Or is
wanted
that
to
just
know
a
how
statement?
Abraham felt. Would Abraham really do that?
Okay.
And
Oh.
so God knows, we know that.
Yeah.
But God had to see, would Abraham do that?
Yeah. We'll get into that. We'll get into that in a second. But that statement there, 8. I guess I'll share my thoughts on it. I think Abraham had that faith. I don't think it's a lie myself. I don't think he's trying to half truth it or like ease it over with him. I think he's saying to Isaac, God will provide, and because God told him to take Isaac and sacrifice him, so he knew that if God wants me to sacrifice Isaac, I'll sacrifice him, and God will take care of it, or He'll provide something else. And I think Abraham knows. So he answers Isaac in the best way he can that God will provide, because He's provided for him in the past. But I could be wrong. I saw a lot of hands go up, so now I'm worried I'm wrong.
Well, no,
It's just like one after.
I
Go
just
ahead.
read it again.
Oh yeah, go
And
ahead.
like the comment placement.
Yeah, sure.
Like, God will provide himself the lamb for a burnt offering. My son.
Well,
Like,
yeah.
like the way I read it before was just
Yeah,
my
okay,
son,
okay.
he's gonna provide. But I also that's
I think
what
Isaac would have booked it at that point. But.
Well, no, but well, if you read the next verse though, it just says that he bound Isaac his son and laid him on the altar. Is Isaac just going to allow that? So
I think
part
so.
of me thinks that Isaac is just as trusting in his father and Abraham's understanding that God's going to take care of this.
Yep.
So you just wonder what the conversation was between the two of
I'd
them.
love to know, because it would
I
help a
would
lot.
too. Yeah.
Let's keep Norby, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was just thinking that I would think that he didn't want to scare his son.
Yeah.
And maybe back in Abraham's mind, praying that God has a different
solution. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Abraham probably also remembers that he made a covenant with God.
Yep.
That through Abraham, there would be great nations.
Yep.
Through Isaac.
Yep.
So in the back of his mind, he probably knew
Well, I
that
think it's more here, but I don't.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with it. Yep.
that God had a bigger plan,
Yep.
and he was going to do it through. If Isaac was killed, that plan wouldn't happen.
Let's just keep all the. Go ahead.
It's an example of the son's obedience to his father.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't see any strife there.
Yeah, we don't, unless it's not recorded, but we don't. I agree.
So there's a prime example.
Mike and then Gail.
The writer of Hebrews gives us some help.
Yep.
In 11, 17, 18, 19. He was tested, he offered up Isaac. He said, of course, that in Isaac your descendants shall be called. And then 19, he considered that God was able to raise people even from the dead, from which he also received them back as a type. And so his faith, even at that point, seems to be that even if Isaac is sacrificed on the altar, God can raise him up and still provide a descendant for the promise to be fulfilled.
Yeah. Gail, do you have a
Yeah, I was just thinking that he's testing if Abraham would put anything above God. And if God says something, I mean, even his son shouldn't come before what God's asked.
Good. Yeah, I'm glad you, Mike. Thanks for bringing in the Hebrews passage. I was hoping to get to that. I used to read this story and not really understand a lot of that. But really, the Hebrews passage helps us understand that I think Abraham, I think we know from that passage that he understood that God made a covenant with him, and that covenant was going to proceed through Isaac. And so if God says, sacrifice him, if you're Abraham at this point, you know that what God has done. He's learned a little bit from maybe his, let's just say maybe his goof-ups with Sarah and Ishmael. And he's learned that I need to trust God. And God said that I need to sacrifice him. But God also said that he's going to make me to see. He took him, he showed him all the stars and said, I'll make, how is he going to do that without Isaac? Because it's going to be through Isaac. So if he says to sacrifice him, I'll sacrifice him. And again, he realizes that somehow God is going to raise him from the dead or fix it or provide something else. And so I think, he's testing to see if Abraham really understands that speaking as God, I'm going to follow the covenant. Will you follow with me? I think that's really what he's getting to. Go ahead, Mike.
So his faith, I was just, after I said that or referred to that passage, I thought, had he seen someone raised from the dead? But then I remembered. In a sense, he had, because earlier in Hebrews, it says, beyond the proper time, since she considered him faithful who had promised, therefore there was born even of one man, and him as good as dead.
Oh, yeah, that way.
At that, many descendants as the stars of heaven. So
because of their age.
So the deadness of Sarah's womb, he had already in
seen that miraculous
sense raised someone from the dead. Yeah. So I think that sort of points out the development of faith too. That, faith is something that grows in us as we continue to trust God, and he shows us the things that he shows us. So
that's a good point.
Yeah. So I think he didn't. It's not just he woke up that day and he was just full speed ahead, understanding everything and accepting it all.
Well, I'm glad you brought it before. So what has he seen? So I mean, just think of, as we mentioned, these situations here. Let's just use these situation with the Pharaoh and Abimelech. Like he's seen. Now speaking as Abraham, I've goofed up, I've messed up, but yet God still caused this to work out for my benefit because of the covenant, right? So he's seen that. So now I think he's at this point with Isaac realizing, wow, if God's taking care of this to this point, even when I'm kind of being a bonehead, right? In a way, he's making bad decisions. He's still taking care of me. How much more is he going to take care of the situation if I follow and do what he tells me to do? Right? So maybe he's to that level at his point of his faith. He's learned, he's seen what's the best plan of action.
If they call Abraham righteous in the scripture, he's got to not only show his righteousness, God knows what Abraham's going to do, or God wouldn't call Abraham righteous.
Yeah.
So being righteous, if we're going to take it as that, then Abraham has to continue saying what the Lord said,
Yeah.
killing your son. That is a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
Try. Think about yourself.
I'm not going to do
Can
it.
you raise? Yeah.
I need to teach
Isn't
the rest of
that-
the class.
Isn't that impossible? Abraham's
Just
doing the
thinking
impossible.
that.
Yeah, Abraham's doing the impossible, but he is trusting the Lord.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's if Abraham didn't do what God said to do,
Yep.
would Abraham be called righteous?
No.
You can't pretend.
All right, so we know how it finishes in a rather kind of dramatic fashion, right? He's to the point, you picture it how I picture it, I'm guessing, right? He's got the knife to his throat kind of thing, right? And what happens in 12? Abraham, the Lord calls down to him from heaven and says, Abraham, Abraham, here I am. Don't stretch out your hand against the lad. Do nothing for him, for now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. So you've not withheld your only son from me. And Abraham raised his eyes and looked, and behold, there's a ram caught in the thicket by the horns. And he takes the ram and offers him up for a burnt offering in the place of his son. Abraham calls the name of that place, the Lord will provide, and rightly so, right? As it is said to this day, in the mount of the Lord it will be provided. So that's the finish of that story there, okay? And we see that occurrence, and I think it's significant. We'll get to it in a second. Maybe this is where Mike's going.
Nope.
That little conversation is pretty significant there at the end. Go ahead.
Probably not. So we often think about the fear of God as afraid, terror. Yeah. And it's clear in this passage that he's talking about reverence. And
Okay.
just notice my column's reference says that. It says a fearer of God.
We're talking in 12?
Or it says, reverence, literally a fearer of God. So the fear of God, so often in scriptures, and of course there are other places, it's a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. There's that sense of it. But so often it's reverence for God.
You revere
So
God.
we have that
reverence,
kind of, reverence.
Oh, good. That's good. Thank you. Where I was going is what an interesting, maybe antitype situation here in Genesis 22 with God offering up Christ as well, right? And so we have that happening, and then later on, of course, we know that God's going to sacrifice His only begotten Son, right? Intentional? Yes. Intentional? Yes, absolutely intentional.
Yeah, actually, the language, he did not spare his
Spare
own
his
son,
own
but
son.
delivered him up.
Yeah.
So in this case, he spared Isaac.
Yeah, right.
In his case,
No.
he delivered up his son.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. All right. 15, 17 through there. By myself I've sworn, declares the Lord, because you have done this thing and have not withheld your son, your only son. Indeed, I will greatly bless you. And I will greatly multiply your seed as the stars of the heavens and the sand. Oh, is he saying that covenant, was contingent on that? I don't think so. I think he's reemphasizing and saying that you followed through on your side of the covenant. You've obeyed me, and I'm going to keep maintaining my side of the covenant, which I already told you, which was to multiply your seed in the sand. Can't get my words here. Multiply your seed as the stars of the heavens and the sand which on the seashore, and your seed shall possess the gate of their enemies. In your seed all the nations of the earth will be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice. Abraham returned to his young men and arose and then went to Beersheba, and Abraham lived in Beersheba. And so we get this kind of end of the chapter here. There's more genealogy stuff there at the end of 20, okay? And we actually see in 20 a future person that we're going to be talking about very soon, which is Rebecca, right? So we see some of the genealogy there that's important in 20, because we're going to come back and see Isaac and Rebecca after a little while. All right, we can move on from Abraham and Isaac here, the story, as long as you're okay with that. But if there's something you really want to keep delving into, let's do that. Otherwise,
I would just point out one thing. In 16 and 17, because you have done this thing.
Yeah.
So you were mentioning earlier, and it's right to think of it that way, that God's going to fulfill his covenant with or without Abraham. He could do it with someone else.
Yeah.
But in relation to covenants, God makes this covenant with Abraham, and he says, you keep my covenant.
Yep.
That is, you offer up Isaac, your son, and I will continue to bless you through him.
Yeah.
Okay, or all nations will be blessed through him. So indeed, I will greatly bless you and greatly multiply your seed as the stars of the heavens. But it says in 16, because you have done this.
Yeah.
So there's
a conditional aspect to it.
In one sense, I mentioned a unilateral covenant.
Yeah.
God's going to fulfill his covenant, but here with Abraham, he says, because you have.
Yeah.
And so it's in him that he's going to bless all.
Yeah, it's almost as if he's saying, I don't know. I've really seen that covenant as kind of unconditional with Abraham and Isaac, Abraham and God, but it does seem like he just reaffirms it or almost adds that conditional aspect to it, even though it was unconditional. All right, 23. Sarah, we see really all that happens in Sarah is a long chapter. Seemingly, that chapter 23, you might just kind of breeze through that. Well, okay, Sarah dies. All right. We didn't like Sarah anyways. Okay, move on. Well, there's something significant there, though, right? So what's significant in 23 in the death and burial of Sarah? Did you read that chapter? Did you understand my question? I asked, what the purchase of the burial site, why is that emphasized in detail? Is there anything significant about that? What did God tell Abraham about that first promise? What did he?
She's in the land of Canaan.
Oh, okay. We got to kind of remind ourselves back, right? He told him, "I'd give you that land," right? So just think about that. They're sojourning. They're there in that land, and Sarah dies, right? So he needs somebody to bear. Does he go back? Right? Does he take her back to their homeland? No. God said, "I'm going to give you the land of Canaan." So I think it's significant. I think there's something there of Abraham really understands that. And by the way, we'll see farther out people buried here as well. That no, this is going to be our, God's going to take this over, so we'll be okay burying her here. Go ahead.
It's like a cat chasing its tail. Back to verse 18. Because you have obeyed my voice. When God way before that, when God told Abraham to leave the Ur of Chaldees, Abraham did it.
Right. Yeah.
If he hadn't done it, would he have gained Canaan? It's because of his travels through he obeyed God's voice. Yeah. God says, "I'll give you this if."
Yeah.
And so if Abraham didn't, it wouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah, we know that God can do anything. We know that.
Yeah.
But we also make the mistake today by saying, well, God will take care of it. Well, God will take care of it. He will, in a sense, accept. He wants to see it from us.
Okay.
Are we going to help?
Okay. Go ahead.
We see again that Abraham didn't take anything from the pay. He paid for it.
He did pay for it. 400 shekels of silver.
Just like the kings tried to give him the spoils back.
Yep.
He didn't want them to have saying that he made them rich or he did something.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, he could have just said, "My God's going to take this over. I'm going to take what I want." Okay.
Right, so
Interesting observation. Yeah.
For that,
Yeah.
Even today.
It's a good observation. Was there anybody else? Okay, so we have this cave, if you will, that she's buried in, and later on we'll see that way ahead, Genesis chapter 49. I'm about to gather my people and bury my fathers in the cave that's in the field of Ephron the Hittite, in the cave that's in the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre in the land of Canaan, which Abraham bought along with the field from Ephron the Hittite for a burial site. There they buried Abraham and his wife Sarah. So Abraham's going to be buried there as well. We'll see that. There they buried Isaac and his wife Rebekah, and there And there I buried Leah, and we'll see that at the end, way ahead in the class, chapter 49 of Genesis. But this burial sites can be used again, right? And so, again, I think there's significance there that this is the land that God said that he was going to give to them. And so Abraham's not worried about generationally that, well, I'm going to bury my wife, here, and now I'm not, or not going to be able to mourn her or do it, or whatever their tradition or whatever their customs would have been. And no, he knows that he'll have that land. So. No, stop scratching your nose then. All right.
I have some things I thought of, but
You don't want to open a can of worms?
well, it's really quite a different subject, and that is just with reference to now modern burial practices
Sure.
and this disbursement of the deceased. They didn't scatter their ashes to the wind. Let me just say briefly.
Okay.
They,
Yeah, maybe that's a can of worms we should not crack the seal on. Go ahead, Sharon.
When God said to leave, didn't God say you're headed to Canaan? They were in Canaan, so why are they considered foreigners at this point?
Well,
when that's where God wanted them to go.
Yeah, but they're considered foreigners because they're not from there. There's other people dwelling there, right? But I guess I don't understand your question.
So I don't understand why Abram was where he was supposed to go. Isn't he at that point in Canaan?
Yeah, he's where he's sojourning.
Yeah.